is a booming left hand behind a right hand by Marvin Hagler.
Hagler's fighting a terrific fight.
And that's all. That is all.
These scrapbooks are the boxing stories that I watched growing up. Every time I open these books, I'm inspired to watch these fights again, to celebrate these fighters for what they were. We go back to 1983 HBO Sports. Marvelous Marvin Hagler defends his middleweight crown against Tony Sibson. You can start whenever you like. Just have to say action.
Action.
It's the long-awaited next episode of our show. What's our show called?
George's Boxing Scrapbook Stories.
And this is a special one, and I say every one is a special one. But this one is one of my favorite fighters of all time, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I had his poster on my wall as a kid, growing up in Jersey. And by the way, Marvelous Marvin Hagler was born in Newark, New Jersey. Of course he was so tough, he's from Jersey. And Marvelous was not Marvin Hagler's nickname, it was his legal name. He was known as Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and he lived up to that name. What was there to not like about the guy? He could box, he could punch, he could brawl, he could take a punch, he had heart. I mean, he was everything that you wanted in a fighter. As a kid, I got to see him fight all the time, and he's all over every one of these scrapbooks. This book, I turn to the first page, and there's Marvin Hagler again. He's in every single one of these scrapbooks that I have.
You have a lot of scrapbooks too.
Yeah, and look at this, by the way. This one is intact. The front, nothing is falling apart, unlike some of the other ones. So
it's all together.
It is all together. So in 1983, Marvin Hagler fought a guy named Tony Sibson. So Tony Sibson was a rough, rugged middleweight from the UK. He was the #1 contender in the middleweight division. He was on a 14-fight winning streak. He had knocked out Alan Minter, the former middleweight champion, a few years before he got this shot with Hagler. The shot with Hagler was his first attempt at winning a world title. And Hagler was the unified middleweight champion of the world. Do you know what weight middleweight is?
Isn't it like regular weight?
Maybe that's a new weight class called regular weight. I knew that this would be the Hagler fight that I would focus on. But this is the one that really showed how his greatness. He was great. This was Marvelous Marvin Hagler's 60th professional fight. 60th professional fight. And this fight with Sibson was Hagler's 6th title defense. So this fight was at the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts. It was a Friday night in February. 14,000 people packed the arena to see their own guy fight. It was a cold winter night. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, 6th defense of his middleweight title. He was about to heat things up on a cold New England night, February of 1983.
And Marvin Hagler has now come into the ring here to the delight of the 14,000 people in the Centrum in Worcester.
Don't throw any punches during the break, okay? Seconds, come on, fighting. Seconds, come on, fighting.
Marvin Hagler, of course, does not shake hands before a fight. It is not any kind of a hostility. It is just merely the way he does business.
You will see a great deal of boxing skill from Marvin up until he's able to hurt Simpson. And then he'll get very mean and start taking advantage of it.
And Hagler started to take advantage of Sibson early. Hagler came out sharp, firing off beautiful, accurate combinations. This was going to be a long night for Tony Sibson.
There was an uppercut lead. That hurt Sibson. Hagler with 3 punches that all scored right on the face of Tony Sibson.
Once again, Hagler's back to orthodox. And all of a sudden he'll change back to southpaw. Now that's confusing, especially if you're good at it. Hagler is good at it.
And notice how smoothly Hagler could go from southpaw to righty. He just switched there. He did this often in a fight. It allowed him to get off his combinations from different angles. And on this night, Tony Sibson could not deal with the Marvelous Marvin Hagler that was in front of him.
A little bit of blood from the nose of Tony Sibson. What a jab. Brilliant jab by Marvin Hagler.
We're really seeing the versatility of Marvin Hagler here. His ability to box is vastly underrated.
To me, Ray, just seems to be getting better with every fight.
After 5 rounds of domination, Hagler came out for round 6, intent on ending the fight.
Close before too long. Marvin Hagler goes right for it. What a boxing exhibition you're seeing from the champion tonight. There is a cut along, seems to be right at the bridge of the nose, and combinations of punches by Hagler. Simpson fights back. Hagler tags him with a right, and another right behind an uppercut. Hagler right back on his man now, sensing that he has him hurt. And down goes Tony Sibson. Hagler trying to finish it off right here. A jolting right hand, a looping right hand by Hagler. And another. Sibson stands toe-to-toe. He's down, and this should be it. Padilla sends him to the neutral corner. Sibson is on his feet. And that's all. That is all. To say that Marvin Hagler was impressive would be to make a great understatement.
It would be an understatement. He showed so much that I'm quite sure the opponents that are looking at him now are a bit intimidated.
After this fight, Tony Sibson went on to fight another 5 years. He never was able to win a title. He had 2 more shots. He fought for a light heavyweight belt against Dennis Andres, and he lost. And in the final fight of his career, he fought against Frank Tate, who was a 1984 Olympian, for the middleweight title. He lost that fight. He called it a career. And for Marvin Hagler, I mean, he went on to some huge fights. He beat Duran that same year. He went on to fight Thomas Hearns in maybe his most famous fight, who he knocked out in 3 rounds in 1985. And then the final fight of his career against Sugar Ray Leonard in 1987. Who won that fight? Sugar Ray Leonard got the decision. Hagler retired and is one of the few fighters who retired and stayed retired. Sadly, in 2021, Marvin Hagler passed away, which shocked anyone who saw him fight. And I was a kid when I watched him fight. He was so strong. He looked like he was chiseled out of granite. And guys like that, they're almost like superheroes. And you think they can never be hurt. It's very sad that Hagler is gone, but he left his mark on the sport. He was inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame, and he will be remembered forever as a great fighter.
Man, what a cool, I mean, HBO, Marvin Hagler fighting, destroying Tony Sibson. It was a great night. Now tell me, what did you learn from all this talk about Marvelous Marvin Hagler? Wait, actually, give me this, because I like to take this from you. All right.
He had over 60 fights, which that's like huge now, right? He was born in New Jersey, which is pretty cool. Since that's what I like to do.
Do you remember what his nickname was?
Marvelous. Well, no, that was his name actually. Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Look at you! You knew that was his actual name.
He changed his name to Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
And that's the perfect way I'm going to remember him, as being simply marvelous.